Hello, this is Linda Vettrus-Nichols, and I have with me the most amazing person, Brenda J. King. Welcome, Brenda.
Hello, I'm excited to be here.
Yay! I'm so excited to have you. We've never done this before, and I just love doing interviews with people like I've never interviewed before, so this is going to be great. So before we get started, Brenda, will you let us know kind of your story of transformation? I do know you love horses. You're big time in that arena, literally.
Yep.
And you're a grandma, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I've got six grandkids.
Six of them. Oh my gosh. What ages?
They range in age from 7 to 2.
Oh my goodness, how fun. Busy
Yeah.
though, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of energy needed there.
Yeah.
And
It's
they're
so much fun.
yeah, and they're around you. How far away are they?
Like the 4 of them are about an hour away because my 2 sons, of course, live close, and then my daughter lives 12 hours away. So I try to get down there every couple of months with her 2 kids.
Got it. Very
So,
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for FaceTime.
Oh yeah, isn't that wonderful? I have 2 kids, no grandkids. Terry, my husband has 1 daughter and no grandkids. So we just decided that we would get puppies. So we have 2 Shih Tzus. They're now 6 years old, and they're our grandchildren replacements. So we're both in. We've been in 33 years, starter marriages, and we've been together for 7 years.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So okay, so tell me, your story of transformation.
Really, like I was this shy, nerdy kid who wanted to keep everybody happy and had big dreams of going to med school, but then settled in some ways and was a nurse and had kids right away. By the time I was 23, I had 3 kids. So I kind of jumped into life early.
Yeah.
Worked as an ICU nurse, but like kept wanting something more.
Okay.
And so then finally I decided I needed to go get my degree in clinical psychology. And that was in part because working in ICU, I couldn't understand why people acted the way they did. And
Mm-hmm.
I got really curious because you kind of see both the best and worst of people
Right.
and their coping skills. And so I ended up traveling halfway across the country for someone who had never been out of the state of North Dakota hardly. And that like hugely opened up my life, and ended up traveling to conferences, speaking and teaching at international conferences. So moved from being the shy kid to sort of this person that was like getting to get comfortable in the world, settled in as a clinical psychologist. I always say I'm a serial achiever because and then it was like, okay, this is good, but there's still something missing.
Oh yeah, one of those.
Yeah. So then I went back to, since I was a kid, I'd always like done this journeying, and so I began to study and realized that it was like shamanic journeying that I'd been doing my whole life in astral travel, but had no idea what it was.
Yeah.
And so started kind of exploring, and then started using that a little bit in my clinical practice, and
Wow.
then moved to some online coaching where I could like really explore and expand that and feel
Yeah.
a little freer to play.
Yeah.
So then I do a shamanic journeying, energy healing, intuitive reading, along with sort of the neuropsych stuff.
Oh my
And
God.
like, it is so much fun.
Yeah. Super
And
cool.
yeah, so I kind of found, my place, and I just kind of keep exploring and expanding what I do and how I work with that stuff. And that's kind of how I ended up here today.
That is so cool. It reminds me of Jennifer Bronsnick. She's kind of had that similar journey. She actually ended up being an integrative health coach, and she works with human design and
Okay.
combines the licensed social worker is what she is, and combines all
Yeah.
that. And that's like blow you away too. I love it. Okay, cool journey. Anyways, so we are going to talk about, I believe maybe it's chapters 4 and 7 from Women Who Run with the Wolves. So it's self-preservation, and let's see, clear water is the other one. They're 2 separate sections in the book. So self-preservation and clear water, find the life that feeds your soul. What would you say about that? Like, what pops for you when you think about even the title, right?
I mean, one, it's like, given the process, it's amazing how much that sort of resonates with my story, because I was always searching for what was going to feed my soul.
Okay.
Yeah, because the things I do now, I just light up when I'm playing with them and talking about them.
Yeah, you have a beautiful picture on your website of you going nose to nose with a gorgeous horse. Is that your horse?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, so beautiful. Big brown horse. I love horses.
That was part of my midlife crisis too, is like, that was part of my exploring, was to get into horses and learn to ride at the age of 40.
Oh,
you
hadn't done that before?
No.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Exciting. I was in Arizona one time, and the horse, I walked a horse out, and I didn't know how to ride bareback, but I decided to hop on the horse, and I turned it around, and it just went, choom, it just shot back. It did not want to go out. And as soon as I turned it around to walk back to the barn, it took off on me, and I just went, doing, doing, and I hooked my hip on a post, and I was like thrown, right? Literally and emotionally. And it's like, I was at my crossroads. I could get back up, get on the horse, and ride, or not ever ride again. It was just, so I took the reins and I went on the nose of the horse, like, no, and got up and rode it back in, and found out later it was pregnant. I did not want to do a trail ride. And I really felt like, oh, poor thing.
But she would have been capable of doing that. They just, they got to learn to develop that. Mares, though, are trickier. You kind of got to get that self-respect, and you got to respect you.
Yep. And I didn't like hurt the horse, but it was like, the energy of, you know what? Not
we're doing this together.
Snap out of it. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so the idea of connect with others. I did not do a good job of connecting with the horse on any level. At least till the end of it.
At least to start with,
So tell us a little bit more about that, because boy, if you're not connecting with others, you're definitely going to get yourself into even addiction and stuff, because all you're going to do is numb and not process. You're going to keep all that emotion in and not allow it to run through you. And especially for women, processing out loud usually is the thing. And we used to have that all day long. We did our chores with other women. We did our businesses with other women. We made the baskets or whatever. We owned the property. That's what I love about the Native Americans. Like the women actually owned the longhouses or owned the teepees. It was really fascinating. What do you have to say about connect with others and the importance?
Well, I mean, I see so many women that struggle to have relationships that feel authentic and real, and in part because they're not connected with themselves. But and it's sort of like, if they don't accept themselves, then they don't dare be authentic, show up, sort of share their true thoughts. They sort of are wearing this mask. And so it's really, you have to be real, because nobody even knows if they like you. You're not going to find the people if you're not showing up as your true self. And so that's like, and once you start showing up as your true self, it's amazing. The people that you connect with and people that you never would have guessed. I mean, it's just it shuffles the whole playing field in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even just swearing, like, oh, I wouldn't want to do that. No one would come to me for business. It's like, all the right people will come to you for business. Like, I don't even trust people who don't swear. So if you swear, just swear. They can either handle it or not. They'll go away, or they'll come. So and my clients' families would be like, "You're really gonna say that?" Why not? So I am.
And that part of it is, for me, of course, we teach what we lived. And, I was so scared to show anybody who I was when I was young, that I never felt like I could connect with other people. And it's just kind of been this ongoing process of opening up more and more. And it's like, life is so much better. You
Right?
know, when you have real connections and you're being real, and yeah, and you can just get through things in your life when you've got someone that you know is going to show up when you need them.
Yeah.
You can ask for help.
Right. And perfectionism is so crippling. Oh my gosh. So yeah, get over yourself, is that's kind of the bottom line of that one. All right. And then use the grid. When we were talking about this interview, you were like, I'm getting golden threads, or they're connected to different places. And Terry and I actually met at an earth meditation. Those are cool. So tell us a little bit more about like kind of what came to you when I said, if you're pooping off the planet tomorrow and there's only one thing you can let the rest of us know, what is it? And you went there. So tell us a little bit more about all of that.
Well, it's like part of us, this is like, I see energy a lot and how we are, you know, connected to everything. And one of the ways that I see that is sort of like these threads of golden energy that kind of surround the whole earth and connect us to everything on the earth. Because to me, you know, the trees, the animals, people, they all hold their old energy that we're connected to. But I also think for me, it's like we can influence that. So if we're needing people in our life, we can kind of imagine sending energy out on that grid to kind of light up the connection to the people that we're meant to be connected to. And so I see it kind of as a tool of connection, but also, yeah, it's just a part of who we are and how we're connected to the world. And for a weird way, for me, it's like I always think the movie The Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're kind of been hooked into this matrix that's got life distorted for pretty much all people on Earth in some ways, sort of our society. And so it's kind of like you disconnect from this matrix, and the grid is this other matrix that's kind of truth. And so we want to connect to that grid, or recognize that we are connected to it. And if we light up those connections, and we can start seeing where we're I don't know, just believing things that aren't true and that kind of get us back to being unreal.
Yeah.
That
Absolutely.
makes sense.
Even negative mindset will bring in things from the grid that you weren't counting on and didn't really want in your life.
Yeah, well, big time.
Positive. You know, you're going to hook with the grid. Yeah, get some positivity going there.
Yeah.
Bring it in. Cool. All right. And the hands on your back are the thousands of women who have come before you. When you said that, I was like, oh my gosh, it gives me the shivers. That's so cool. That's just so, like, what? Thousands of women who came before me, they've got my back. You know, that's what I got out of it.
Yeah.
So tell us more about that concept.
And like, I kind of do the science and the soul. And for me, a part of that is in our DNA. We carry memories, we carry history, we carry skills for as long back as our DNA goes.
Right.
And so all of that, and all the women and what they lived through, what they strived, you know, we're here to heal, to use those gifts to rediscover things that have been lost.
Yeah.
Sort of at the biological, sort of scientific level. And I also think, I always like the energetic part is past lives, spirit guides, like all those, again, energies also that have been a part of how we ended up at this moment in this life. And so we just have this huge circle of support and wisdom that we can tap into. And so sometimes we just need to lean back and, you know, be held, and just trust that it's going to come up through us, through our genes, through our energy, that we're going to have answers. We're going to find strength when we need it. And sometimes the letting go is the strongest thing that you can do, especially when you remember you're held.
Yeah, when you remember you're held. I like that. What was that new research that came out about? Was it the blood in your grandma's? Something about.
Yeah, well, see, I love like so the feminine divine. I mean, one thing I'm thinking about is like our mitochondria are in all our cells, and they're like the energy powerhouses, but they only hold maternal DNA. Is one thing, and so we actually genetically, women carry DNA from their ancestors that's separate from any male DNA that's touched them, which I think is interesting. But then, yeah, and the other part is what they're discovering, and it's sort of controversial, but that anybody that's been a lover is we have incorporated some of their DNA into ourselves. And so there's that whole idea is like, know who you're spending time with,
Yeah,
but also recognize,
cool.
yeah, because women really are receivers in life, and
Yeah.
we do, we create from that receiving. But it's amazing, we learn just how much we are receiving and take in, and that whole idea of, if they can do the test, they could probably figure out who you've slept with in your lifetime, because not that anybody's doing that, but you carry the DNA from everybody that you've had sex with, which is, yeah, I think that just came out this last year or two, which is fascinating and new, and of course got all kinds of responses.
Yeah. The other thing is, I don't know if they've done any studies on it, but like fetal alcohol syndrome, it's like, oh, well, if your mom drank when she was pregnant, fetal alcohol syndrome. I have seen moms who didn't drink at all, dads who did, and the kid got that fetal alcohol syndrome look like big time. So I would love to, know what's out there, that's leaning that way too.
Yeah, because I think there's so much we don't understand, because we're even learning more about how, again, we can flip on and off our DNA in different aspects, and there's only a small part of our DNA that we actually even know what it does.
Yeah, right.
And so again, even there, the hands on your back is what DNA can we activate from skills and talents and gifts.
Yeah.
A little familiar.
Well, and you can turn your genes on and off, so you can change your, you can change like your DNA because you're turning your genes on and off. So yes, you can change your DNA, but yes, you can.
Right, you really can. I mean, yeah, there's, whether it's nutrition or stress or mindset work and meditation, you can, yeah.
And they've done so much work now with the brain. Like the 2-year-old brain is this bunch of scrambled eggs up there, and it's pruning for organization so they can think straight and ask all those why questions when they're 3. And then the teenage brain, they're finding, is like back to the state of the 2-year-old brain, and it's pruning for vocation. Right?
Yeah.
So teenagers are like little ones because they can't think straight. Their brains are like a total crisscross wired mess, and once they start focusing on a vocation, or even just like the interest, that's why I think it's important to allow your kids to find what they are most interested in, and just do a lot of experimenting, especially in the grade school years, till they nail it, because even then, just with sports, it's going to help to prune the brain, and you're not going to have as like out of it teenager. And hormones change, man. Those 9-year-old girls and those 10-year-old boys, depression. Those 14-year-old girls, those 15-year-old boys, depression. Know that that's coming. It doesn't have to be horrible. Your kids are going to change, and they're not going to be their happy, bright selves necessarily during those years. And some kids, it might come a little later, and some kids, it might come a little earlier, right?
Right. Yep.
It's all part of it. And even as adults, we hit midlife crisis, right?
Yeah. And there's, again, that there's brain plasticity, or our brain keeps changing, and they keep learning more and more that are, maybe not the ways that we expect, but that our brain changes throughout our life and can grow and expand and improve in areas throughout our life.
Yeah, I love the brain stuff. So I was doing work with kids, imprinting instead of teaching, imprinting at 100% accuracy, the most connected and foundational patterns for learning. So that's what I do, part of what I do. And I work with their moms too. So the moms are actually helping their kids. Anyways, I didn't know where I was in the brain. I was trained, I've got over 30 years special ed. I was trained on the cognitive level. And I knew I wasn't there, but I didn't know where I was. And then my friend is a neurodevelopmental specialist. She said, Linda, the research is now out as to where you are in the brain. And I'm like, where am I? What research? And she goes, it came out on Alzheimer's. You're in the basal ganglia at the bottom of the cognitive level and the procedural memory level of the brain. I'm like, wow, okay. So then I saw on because that's the part of the brain that's deteriorating in Parkinson's, but not in Alzheimer's. And kids, especially kids with autism, you know, there's a lot of similarity crossover with Alzheimer's. So anyways, long story short, that's the part of the brain that's deteriorating with Parkinson's. And then I just saw this thing on Facebook where there's Parkinson's patients and they cannot walk without assistance. They almost look a little like the kids with CP, only maybe a little floppier, but they really needed help walking. But as soon as the music turned on, they straightened up and turned right to their partner and they took off dancing like, who just embodied that body?
Yeah.
Because they're using a different part of the brain, a very functional part of their brain to dance.
Yeah. It's just amazing how you can, if you connect with parts of your brain from a different angle or a different way, you can access things that you thought weren't there.
And kids like with seizure disorders, if they do the cut the brain, they're finding that it makes a right and left side of the brain on one side of the brain.
Yeah.
All right. Eat up nature, right? And get messy. Life is messy, so don't be afraid to get messy. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, like I truly believe that like life is this journey and we're meant to experience as much of it as we can. And part of, as painful as it is, like life wouldn't be so beautiful if we didn't have suffering to balance it out.
Ooh.
You know, that we kind of can't appreciate the light without the dark, and our lives are like that too. So that's, you know, certainly a piece of it. And it's like, I also, going in with that, is like we're not meant to create this safety zone because that's an illusion anyway.
Right.
So if you can't truly keep yourself safe, then just go out there, you know, like, and go experience things. It's kind of like when I started riding horses, 40 years old, I bought 3 2-year-olds and broke them. I mean, that's like getting messy with life. I started with an older mare, but then it's like, I'm just going to do this if I'm going to do it. And, you know, so there's sort of this dive in and learn and experience and do. And I think that it just brings so much richness to life and so much experience. And you learn what you're made of, and you learn how to then get through the tough times in life. When you can get through the messy parts, you also then have the skills to get through the really tough times. So it's like, life is messy, go play.
Yeah. The coolest thing I ever did was go to a equine therapy session with my husband. We got invited to one, and it was like, oh, this sounds so cool. And I think he went to a veterans one on his own too. But yeah, boy, you find out what you're made of when you're around horses.
Oh yeah, like they are such mirrors of who they are, but they also definitely will let you know what they, you know, that a 1,200-pound animal, you can't make them do anything they don't want to do. You gotta
connect, and you gotta connect through energy. Oh my gosh, that was fascinating. And they can just like totally read your mind, you know. It's just insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be afraid to get dusty dirty with the horses, or in the Women Who Run with the Wolves book, you know, that idea of like digging for bones, you know, and keeping the river beneath the river clean. Your life can suck, but if you keep the river beneath the river clean, then you're not going to die, right?
Right.
Keep themselves alive through a lot of yuck if they keep up with their creativity, which is the river beneath the river idea, right?
Yeah, because that's the part, is like you can't tap into your creativity if you're not willing to be messy, you know, because creating is messy.
Yeah, I was just on a coaching book club kind of call, and this one gal said, my living room is a mess, and I'm glad, because I wasn't tapping into my creativity, and now it's all over my living room. And she's feeling so much better.
Yep.
That was hysterical. All right, and experience as much as you can. So obviously you were like, what can I experience? And you started to get into horses, and then you're like, what can I experience even more? And then you got the young ones that you were actually learning how to break them. So, whoa, right? And that's what the soul's here to do. Like in the book, Energy is Key by Antonina Andreeva, she talks about the soul is here to experience the experience.
Yep.
It's
totally.
Like, cool. So do you have anything else to say about experience as much as you can?
Well, and to me, like, nature is such a huge part of that too, because that's that place where, for me, nature, and it kind of fits with this, but the idea that we become aware that we're just a drop in the bucket, but we also become aware that we're everything. And nature is really kind of the way that I connect with sort of being both the micro and the macro at the same time.
Wow.
And the messiness of kind of going back and forth between that.
Yeah. And the idea of all connected, we've just dumbed ourselves down so bad with coffins and all that stuff. And finally we're like, oh, well, let's just get cremated, or let's just make ourselves into a bulb and feed a tree, right?
Yeah.
All that. Yeah, so
right.
If they threw you in the woods after you died, right? You're just going to crumble. It's going to be messy, and the worms are going to start on you, and then the birds are going to eat the worms, and then the trees are going to absorb you when you get to the dust part, right? And it's just this big environmental cycle, recycling and upcycling.
Yeah.
Right? And then you get it, like your vibration just went into that vibration, and then the earth gets so hard it turns to a rock and blah blah blah, right? We are all connected. It's the vibration stuff, and it's all on that grid that you were talking about.
And if you sanitize it, then you just shut off so much of your experience, and you shut off dealing with so many of your feelings, because it's like, I don't want to deal with death, and you miss out all the richness of, being present when someone dies and recognizing, that whole cycle.
Yeah, and the ego is so afraid of dying, oh my gosh, right? And it's like, so what? Just recycle, upcycle. Let's go. I love it. All right. So your wild self. That's Women Who Run with Wolves. That's what it's all about, is tapping into the wild self, which is your soul. So like finding your soul, getting back there, and knowing like what's kind of, even get in your way. And what gets in your way is your ego. And if there's any wounding, wounding can actually turn to lust, and it'll flip on you, and then you like insatiable and can't get enough. And obviously that one from the work you do with people. So tell us a little bit more.
But for me, the wild self, it really is like getting down to the core of who you are, and being willing to, again, kind of own the messy parts. But it's like, we do lust after things. We do get hungry. We do sweat, and and sort of like all those animal nature is part of who we are too. And I think sometimes you can find sort of this love and light where we're just these ascended angels that don't never get dirty, never touch anything. And to me,
spiritual bypassing.
You're missing the whole picture with that it's like, yes, you can, but to me it's like the lower you go, the higher you can get. And so you really have to embrace that animalistic nature of yourself too. And that's like going and spending time in nature helps you connect with the cycle of life and the energy. And it's a place sometimes where the distractions around you actually bring you closer to your soul rather than taking you outside of yourself. Because, rustling leaves, thunder overhead, rushing storm, I'm going to be more likely to listen to my soul, my heart. Or if I'm in a city listening to cars, it's really easy to get caught up in my head instead of my heart. And so for me, your wild self nature is, and not for everybody, but for me. But it's also too, back to sex and lust. Like if you are on a farm, if you're in nature, it's like it takes two. And so even finding that stag, like in all of us, we have the sort of the feminine, the masculine energy, and we need to balance that out both within ourselves, and in our external life. And wild animals, nature really kind of show us that balance of it's sort of the raging storm that becomes then this perfect, peaceful place. And to me, that's sort of the balance of the masculine and feminine also, and the need sometimes to rage, to be able to find that quiet place within. And so the wild self to me is sort of reaching the extremes on both sides, and being able to be in both those spaces is really the only way to find your true center, and to really be able to reach that soul spot that allows you then to go out and explore life and have this wonderful journey.
Do you remember when Clarissa talked about, I don't know, she was like 9 years old, but she'd like climb a tree. Climbing a tree was, sexually stimulating, right? It was like a masturbation almost. So she loved climbing trees. And you're watching sex out in nature all the time, right?
Yeah. And we want
in you of sexual pleasure, just climbing a tree, right?
And that's a gift. And people forget that ability to have that pleasure in our bodies is a gift to us that we're meant to enjoy. It's not something, that we've been taught at so many levels to be ashamed of.
Right.
And that's why I think, that often sort of being able to connect with your wild self, then you connect with the pleasures in your life too.
Absolutely. I love it. Walk like an animal. I know you had been talking about like expanding and contracting, and so that's really interesting. I don't know a lot about, I do and I don't. So please fill me in on.
Well, and like part of that probably for me is like with the shamanic journey, a lot of times a kind of shapeshift into an animal, and there's this feeling of power. Is part of it, that sometimes it's a really helpful way if I'm feeling disempowered to be able to kind of get back to that empowered place for myself and remind myself that even sometimes then if I carry my body in an empowered way, I can start feeling that. And so part of it is, walking, like a powerful animal, whether it's in a journey or even in my real life, helps me kind of connect with myself. And the expanding, contracting is often, I'll connect with big cats. But that sense of when we walk, there's sort of the spine contracting and expanding as we walk, but also true, the cycles in our life. And as that wild self, we have these cycles where at times we go inward and we contract, and we kind of really are listening inward to our heart, but then that sort of plants a seed, and then we expand out, and that's where the creativity kind of pours out of us, and then we're giving back to the world. And so even there, it's sort of, it reminds us that we have to honor those cycles in ourselves, and contraction and expansion are part of being our wild self, of being creative, of being our most powerful self in the world. And contracting doesn't mean you're not powerful. It means you're sort of gearing up for that next stage in your life. And so it's, again, that balance.
Yeah, I love it. And, the story of the red shoes is part of this section of what we're talking about, where the little girl makes her own little red shoes, and she lives in the woods. She doesn't have any parents. She's orphaned. And this lady comes in the gilded carriage, which represents the world, and the ego, almost like the world has different opinions of what's okay and what's to be, elevated and blah, blah. And so she takes her in as her own child, and she dresses her up and buys her new shoes and socks and dresses. And then she's pretty like okay with it, just kind of going along with it. And then she goes, "Where are my shoes?" And she says, "Oh, child, they were so filthy dirty. I burned them with your clothes." Right? And so now there's a wounding, because that was, the lady might as well burn her, right? Because there's a big burn on her. And so then the lady's eyesight is going bad, and the little girl is in the shoe store and sees these red shoes, and she just like has to have them, and so the lady's not seeing well enough, so she ends up getting them. And then the lady, I think, maybe had company and they were like aghast with these red shoes. So the shoes had to go back, and she just had to have them. And so she ends up sneaking them. Maybe they got put on the shelf or something and she sneaks them down, but she can't get them off and she's dancing all over the place. And oh my God, so many lessons in that. It's this crazy town.
Yep.
So,
yeah, I mean, like you can spin off on that in so many ways in terms of depriving ourselves
yeah.
too, and then wanting something even more that's harmful for us, and so many patterns that we get caught up in that way.
Yeah, good point. We can just like literally deprive ourselves, even if it's me time, right? Or I shut my computer off at this time of the day because that's what, serves me well, right?
Yep.
We'll do something that makes me happy, and we just like forget as entrepreneurs, we're just kind of stuck to the computer and just keep creating, and yeah, that's great. And I think the river beneath the river for entrepreneurs, we get such joy and pleasure out of the work that we overwork, even if it's joyful work.
Yeah. And again, that's sort of that expansion and contraction too, that there are times where we need to contract and come inward. To be able to keep going, or just if you keep just putting out, you're going to get off balance. And
if you walk away, you actually come back more creative. That came up in the book club coaching call thing.
If you're stuck, the best thing is to go do something else.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, my whole thing is like, okay, what will make me happy? What do I really want to be doing right now? And I just go do it. And when I treat myself that way, I have more clients. I am way more creative. I have more energy. It's just lovely. There's like a midlife crisis, and then there's like this real like what will make me happy crisis. And everybody I'll go to the woods and live alone for now. Grown years, I'm good. Oh God. All right. And so really get quiet and listen, right? You're gonna connect and you're gonna find your soul and really connect with it. Which I think Christina Wolf's gonna be talking to us about that. It's so cool, right?
Yeah, because that's one of the saddest things I sometimes see with some of the people I work with is they have no idea what even brings them pleasure.
Yes.
And it's like, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because at that moment, nothing really does. That's really sad, right? They're just so numbed out and going with the grind of it all.
Yep, and they just have been so busy a lot of times just giving to everybody else that they've quit listening to themselves, and they end up saying, help, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so there's that stag. So find the stag. What are you referring to? I'm sure it's like more like the masculine energy. And my take on that is I love Carl Jung's work, and of course Clarissa Pinkola Estes, author of Women Who Run with the Wolves, took that up a notch or two, right? Carl Jung through the female psyche or something like that. But the anima is, the female energy outside of self, which, the guys are learning to like bring that in, and the animus is the male outside of self. So the women are learning to bring that in, and it's not about like male and female, even though God is not male nor female. We're not talking that. We're just talking about that energy. And you could be male or female and have, more of one than the other. And so if you've got one outside of self, then it's about like getting it in. And I know my sexual trauma clients, victims of sexual trauma, if you will, to invite the animus in is not cool. It's not comfortable. And when they haven't done that yet, they don't get shit done. They have boundaries. We all have boundaries, but they're not noticing their boundaries. And like you said, like doing for everybody else or whatever. And it's almost impossible to like even move their businesses forward, which gets super depressing. Then it's difficult to even move themselves forward or even out the door, right?
Yeah, totally. That you kind of got to have that drive and go. And again,
And the boundaries of it too, because the male energy has the boundaries, right?
Yep.
It gives them more of a container, the boundaries, the drive, and the knowing when to stop. I love that.
Yeah. Yep.
So what's your take on the stag? Find the stag.
So I think, yeah, for me, find the stag is really, it is about, finding that energy. Like the stag represents so many things to me, because I also think it's sort of, in some ways, that elusive part of yourself that you need to find also. Or
Right.
so, and often our power is, and some of our strengths are hidden in those parts of us that are rather elusive. And so even in that way, to me, the stag kind of represents that elusive power that often we're not seeing or not looking for, and that we sometimes, again, have to be quiet and still for it to come to us so that we can recognize it and reclaim it. And so, the stag, like I said, represents both sort of that masculine energy, but also sort of power in a different way that can be really elusive at times. And sort of, there's something like, there's sort of the elegance of the wild self also, in a way, for me, because sometimes the wild self can scare people. And so if you recognize that there's also elegance, if you need to ease into it a little bit, if that makes sense.
It does, totally does. When I read Women Around the Wolves, and she talks, about women, how they're like the wolves, and how the wolves, when there's been a famine and they start to eat again, they can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, there it is, the story of the red shoes. She kept dancing until she ended up in the woods saying to the woodsman, please top my feet off, right?
Yep.
Now she's crippled, right?
I can't stop myself.
What it will do to us. It will cripple us. Obsession, right? When we're just so out of control because we are finding ourselves so deficient in whatever, right?
Yep. Yeah. And it's sort of, yep.
Yeah.
Kind of balancing.
All right. So you have an amazing gift. Thank you so much. You have a group shamanic healing that you're going to actually hold right around the time that this comes out, so people won't have to wait too long to jump into your group shamanic healing. And it's so cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a great fun thing to do for people and give them experiences, some of the things we're talking about, in a different way.
Oh yeah, cool. So tell us a little bit about how that works.
So this actually, people don't need to be present. What I do is sort of, whoever signs up for it, I kind of energetically let you know that you're kind of giving me okay to join with your energy. So energetically, I go on a shamanic journey, and usually it's like 5 or 6 women, and we go on a journey together with that energy. I record it, so you get a recording of the whole journey, and I never know what's going to happen, but generally, and it ends up being like a sister circle where everybody gets some individual healing. But of course, everybody's healing is meant for everybody. So I say, listen to the whole thing, because you're going to find bits and pieces of it. So it's energy clearing, messages. All kinds of things come up. It's always exciting for me because everybody shows up in different ways for these journeys energetically. Where we go, what's experienced, the messages, there's usually a theme, but I never know till I get into the journey, because I just, and then send out the recording, and it's always fun because I always get, the messages back where something is, it's always hit home, or it's what somebody needed to see, or it's always a little scary when people knew when I was doing it, because they felt it as I was journeying with them. Not really scary, it's just kind of fun how that works.
Yeah. And you do have it on, say, like Zoom, where people can be there or not?
Nope, I actually I do this, and then I will email the recording out to them. So it really is sort of like the traditional opt-in. So if you sign up for it, then the week of, that I say that I'm going to do it, I'll do the journeys that week, because it kind of depends upon how many people sign up, how many journeys I do.
Oh,
I record the
visual journeys, and you're recording.
And I record the actual journey. Yep.
Okay, so like if I'm in it and my friend is in it, I don't hear her journey. I just hear what happened during.
I use first names, but yeah, so it's like a group of 6 women. So you'll hear sort of everybody. I mean, there's 6 of us that go on this journey together, and then usually end up in a circle and sort of doing some healing and practices and messages together. So it's just this really rich descriptive recording that you get. So it's kind of like as if you were there.
Yeah. But it's just you, and you're.
But it's just me, and it's sort of the energetic essence. And if they go to the page, it explains it too, so people can read and sort of see what that is. Yeah. So it's this group shamanic healing. You're there, you're not there, because I journey with your energetic essence, but then you get the recording. So as you listen to it, you can re-experience it as much as you want.
Highly encourage it. She is a loving soul, and she's very powerful in the sense of she can really hold powerful space. Yeah, that would be a trip.
Yeah, it's fun. So I encourage people to try it.
I know, right? Well,
yeah.
Together. Sounds really good. Thanks again, Brenda. And I just love how, you're knowledgeable in Women Who Run with Wolves. And, we're not digging real deep into the book. The idea of the summit is go get the book and start reading it, people.
Yeah. There is so much there. It's like I've read it multiple times, and after doing this, I'm going to go read it again.
Same here. And then I got to the point where I was like, I had to get away from it because I just wanted to teach every word of it. I mean, I want to go ask Clarissa if I can record the whole book for her. It's I love that book. So I'm having fun being back with it as well.
Yeah. This is what a great project that you're doing. It's so much fun to be a part of this.
Yeah, so thank you. Yeah, it's probably going to actually turn into a book, so I'll talk about that later. But
yeah, well, I was going this sounds like it would be a great book as you were.
Yeah, and getting the men reading it. I told my husband, I'm not having sex with you until you read the book. Together. He's like, I want to marry you in a week and a half, 2 weeks, take your time. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, our spiritual journeys just went boom, and I'm so delighted. I'm crying about that. And then all of a sudden I go, wait a minute, I'm supposed to have sex with this guy I don't even know in a week and a half, 2 weeks, take my time? Yeah, no. And he held me non-sexually every night for 2.5 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
And I was more than ready.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, he's in with that. Yep. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we went to a hotel and got naked and wrapped in a Native American blanket. He's Chickamauga, and he was raised a white boy and found out when he was 46 actually, and then went on to get some of the Native American teachings he had bestowed on. And yeah. And then we had a blessing ceremony. We all got smudged, and we had a whole Native American blessing ceremony, and everybody, we were in a circle, and they didn't sit as couples. They sat as, if they were a couple, they sat according to their birth place on the wheel of life. And
cool.
Yeah, and they all shared a blessing with us, and it was so cool. Talk about shape-shifting. Nobody could have their masks on whatsoever. And they blessed us, and then we stood up. We were on office chairs that swivel. Swiveled around as they did their thing, and then we got up and we went around with a basket. We had found the Native American stone is the blue stone, the turquoise. So we just ran our hands over turquoise. We thought of a person, ran our hands over a pile of turquoise, grabbed a certain one, prayed over it, put it in a little, the bags, with the drawstrings that usually have candy in at weddings. We put it in one of those, and then we put the calligraphy. We had the story of the blue stone in the bag, and then we gave them to them because they were their special stones.
Yeah,
and that was really cool too. And then we said why they were a blessing to us in our lives individually as a couple.
Oh, beautiful.
It was.
Yeah.
We got smudged, and a very powerful medicine man there. He smudged everybody, and Terry's daughter walked him in, and Terry's friend walked me in. So that was really interesting and
Yeah.
good.
Oh, love it. Yeah, totally. Sort of connecting with yourself, with everybody
Yeah,
around.
it was outside along the river in Minnesota. So
Oh,
really.
gorgeous.
So yeah, your feathers here really reminded me of the eagle feather smudging us, and it was very cool.
Yep. Yeah.
All right, my dear. Well, I hate to say goodbye, but
It's got to end sometime. Till next time.
thanks again, Brenda. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're
Bye.
welcome. Bye-bye.